So, after Ethan Klein's content nuke on Hasan, in which Hasan refuses to watch, why watch a video critical of you, Hasan, when you can just publish your words to the masses in a hateful and bigoted way that relies on untrue and harmful stereotypes, while singling out Ethan, stopping short of true threats that are incitement, but clearly adding to the climate of hatred that leads to his fans calling child protective services on Ethan? Is there a technical term for this type of speech?
There is a technical term for this type of speech. Speech published to the masses that is hateful and bigoted, that relies on untrue and harmful stereotypes, that singles out marginalized groups, that stops short of true threats or incitement, but clearly adds to the climate of hatred directed towards those marginalized groups to the point that actual violence occurs. It's called stochastic terrorism.
As you may have learned from a previous video I made about how stochastic terrorism is a phrase solely created to demonize the right,
then there is an incident of violence. If that violence occurs, you can trace the blame back to the media, back to the journalists, back to the reporters, back to the activists. And of course, this doesn't go both ways. It's only applied rightward.
Watched you talking on a bunch of different interviews today, and you said, burn it down. You said, burn it down. It's time. So that makes me think that you want to burn it down.
I said, if this country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system and replace it, all right? And I could be speaking figuratively. Okay. I could be speaking literally. It's a matter of interpretation.
Imagine if Trump called for violence and when asked about it, he said,
if this country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system and replace it. I could be speaking figuratively. I could be speaking literally. It's a matter of interpretation.
I feel as though it is my civic duty to rub the left's face in their own duty and apply this antagonistic concept to their retaliatory treatment of Ethan Klein. Before we get into the speech that may have caused this, let's start with the effect of this speech.
I knew this content nuke was going to draw a lot of negative attention, seeing how extreme Hasan and his fan base are and his orbiters. But the lengths to which they've gone to harass us and get revenge for going after their god king Hasan has frankly gone beyond any type of point of civility and humanity, to the point where they're calling CPS, Child Protective Services, to come to our house and break up our family. On Friday morning, an agent showed up to our house saying that they had received an anonymous tip that our children were crawling around in dog shit, eating dog shit, and contracting diseases.
Stochastic terrorism, while not a punishable offense at this point, is statistically provable. Leading scholars characterize it as the use of mass media to provoke random acts of ideologically motivated violence that are statistically predictable but individually unpredictable. Like when you see thunder and lightning in the distance coming towards you, you can be fairly certain that lightning will strike, but it's impossible to say where or when. Stochastic terrorism is an indirect form of terrorism that produces statistically likely but unpredictable results.
Fair enough. Let's see if Ethan Klein can meet the statistical bar of stochastic terrorism. Let's see if he's gathered enough evidence to show that he's being specifically targeted by a group of people that are defaming him in order to scare him into not saying what he's saying.
It's time to hold all of them accountable. Here, for example, is Denims, aka Hasan Waiting Room, watching Bad Empanada talk about the state of our house and how we take care of our kids. Let's take a look.
He lets his dogs shit all over his mansion, and he just leaves the shit on the floor, something that is probably related to the fact that his former housekeeper is suing him for a number of different reasons. So I would assume he doesn't actually have a housekeeper anymore, or perhaps he lost his extra housekeeper. So now the house is just like covered in dog shit. And he has kids, and his kids like crawl into the dog shit, and God forbid, I don't know what they do with it. I don't know if they eat it, or if it's just from like contact with it with their hands or something. But they contracted a parasite that I had previously never heard of in my life called Giardia from the dog shit that is all over his house.
Dude, how is it that like maybe once a week I look into what Ethan Klein's been up to, and every time I manage to find more and more terrible shit.
Bad Empanada? Why does that sound familiar? Is that the same Bad Empanada that equated Ethan Klein with Zionists and shooting them in a video game? and making it into one big giant joke? Is it a joke? You be the judge.
I'd like to pay tribute to Ethan Klein and the new Twitch TOS that declares Zionism. Zion is a slur. I'd like to pay tribute to him by playing the first in Al-Aqsa video game where you kill Zionist soldiers as a Palestinian resistance fighter. Anyways, are these Israelis? Are they just standing there? I mean, is the Israeli army a bunch of Ethan Kleins? Like, they're all on a fucking Ozempic binge? They don't understand what's going on around them? They haven't noticed me? How do I win? What's my objective? I don't actually know. Where do they keep the secretaries? In here? I'm hunting for secretaries right now.
Now, at this point, as he continues, notice the chat is almost in complete universal agreement. Call CPS. Call child endangerment. CPS, social services. Bro needs to unironically call CPS. That's child endangerment. Okay, if his kids have Giardia, they need to be taken away. Actual worst father ever, etc., etc. I'll let the chat play for you, but you can see just how crazed this community is. And once again, this is Denim's chat from the first. The call came on the third. And Denims endorses this clearly. As you can see, she's not moderating this at all. And it's pretty much 100% of the comments saying call CPS on them. Their kids should be taken away. That she believes that it's justified to break up our family. This disgusting fucking human being.
Why I oughta.
Who's endorsed by Hasan and the entire left community on Twitch, who is protected and elevated by Twitch, is on her platform right now advocating for our children to be forcibly removed from us by Child Protective Services.
They call me Mr. Stochastic. No, that is only reserved for people on the right. When the left does things like this, it's not stochastic terrorism. So let's see some real stochastic terrorism.
But that doesn't negate the fact that there are very real, very dangerous consequences when someone like Rachik or Trump goes online and posts inflammatory false information. It leads to threats and insurrections. So we do need to contend with this somehow.
Hold on, you dumb slab of beef. You have zero proof that any bomb threats were caused by the libs of TikTok lady. Now you predicated this with her giving out inflammatory and false information. Well, let's see how these bomb threats are being tied to this person. NPC News. After libs of TikTok posted, at least 21 bomb threats followed. Wow. Seems like we don't hold anyone on the left to that standard, especially during the quarantine race war of 2020, but okay. Chaya Rachik is not accused of making any bomb threats in Iowa or anywhere else. But about a day and a half before, authorities responded to the threat at a junior high school. Rachik posted that the school offers a pornographic book in its library that teaches kids about gay sex. These are the books they're giving your kids to read in school, she wrote on the social media platform X. The detective wrote in her report that one of Rachik's supporters could have had a role in the bomb threat. Weird how they didn't say she lied or said anything false, don't you think? Don't you think the detective would have said that's a lie? That's false information? That's defamatory? From the article, this is the post in question by Libs of TikTok. Teacher at this school celebrates Lesbian Visibility Week by promoting the book This Book is Gay to her students. The book teaches about gay sex and encourages the use of sex apps. This is what teachers are giving kids to read in the classroom. Is that a fact? Let's explore. Warning, cartoon dick. Here's the book in the classroom. Here's Mr. Wacky Wiener. Let's see what this text says down below. Bum. Up your bum, you have a prostate gland, which feels nice when massaged. The anus is also sensitive and responds to being played with. We all remember learning that at 13, right? That's why you go to school in the first place.
Education. Distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away.
Yeah, but she must have totally lied about the gay sex apps. How sex apps work? Upload a tiny pic of yourself to the app works out your location, the app tells you who the nearest homosexuals are, then you chat with them. Because they are near, it is easy to meet up with them, and then you have a nice little conversation, right? Good thing to teach a 13-year-old in the age of the internet. No lies detected at all whatsoever. But what about Trump? What's the stochastic terrorism from Trump? Well, how Trump's "will be wild" tweet drew rioters to the Capitol on January 6th. Wow, what a direct through line to what happened, right? So putting that into context for you, what can be done about stochastic terrorism?
There needs to be a focus on what Kurt Braddock calls attitudinal inoculation, informing people about the media and persuasive forces that they're going to be confronted with, basically opening their eyes to the problem, preferably before they can get sucked in. Obviously, for many people, that's too late, but the tactic is basically to say, as Braddock puts it, I know you're not violent. I know you have no intention of becoming violent, but there are these actors out there who are going to make certain statements that will justify violence against others, and they're trying to get you to consider maybe engaging in violence. And then you give the person some counter-arguments and information against whatever idea you're trying to inoculate them against. And there's 60 years of political communications research to back up this idea that has proven that you can actually make a difference if you point out to people the ways that bad actors are trying to influence them to commit violent acts or even feel violent against a group of people. Helping people recognize when they're being manipulated can work. Again, as I said, some people are too far gone.
Wow, so there's 60 years of political communications research as to exactly what Ethan Klein has been doing in terms of the entire point behind Ethan's content nuke on Hasan Piker directly influencing people to go out into the world and harass people and isolate targets like, I don't know, Zionists, and then take his hands off when the community starts attacking them. Weird how 60 years of research, and when it's applied to the left, they call CPS on you and do it even harder. Isn't that wild? Doesn't this feel kind of imbalanced?
I believe, and I will show you why, that Reddit is colluding with the moderators of this snark community. I believe that there's admins that work inside of Reddit that are members of this community and actively protecting it. I will show you my evidence. The first thing is that Ela works with a management company who has a connection to Reddit community managers. We first went through them, an official channel, to say, hey, this snark is out of control. They're harassing us all. They're definitely violating your site rules. Can you look into it? A day later, guess what? The snark page was permanently closed. Hooray, we said. That was awesome. All we needed was one person to take a look at it, and obviously it wasn't compliant with the rules. Well, 3 days later, the snark page was reinstated fully, and they made this post to celebrate. H3 mod announcement. We're back after a much needed break. We are just a group of volunteers and we appreciate your patience. Our relationship with Reddit is currently better than ever, and we're in good communication with the admins. Now that to me stood out quite tremendously, considering that our subreddit with 600,000 users, the second biggest podcast subreddit on the entire site behind Joe Rogan, has never had contact with admins. They have never reached out to us. But why is it that the admins are in constant contact with this small niche subreddit dedicated to harassing people, but we, one of the biggest subreddits on the website, have not heard a single word from them ever? When someone created a snark page dedicated to Hasan Piker, it was immediately deleted for harassment. Take a look. The subreddit was banned due to a violation of Reddit's content policy against harassing content. So it's harassing when it happens to Hasan Piker, but it's okay, great behavior when it happens to Ethan Klein. What's with the double standard?
Well, Ethan, this double standard you're experiencing, defending the most popular communist in the United States, is something called the above and below. Above is the appearance of popular support, and below, the little minions do the bidding of the communist. This creates the appearance of popular support because a voice, in mass media or in government, will make these proclamations towards socialism, and then their little minions on the bottom will act like a lot of people agree with it. Now, this used to happen in the 60s, and people would have to physically go out and protest. Now we have people physically going out and protesting, but also on the internet where it's much easier, inciting these hate campaigns and mass attacks on individuals. Let's tie it up in a nice, neat little bow from an anti-communist video from 1969. Have a good one.
To create the appearance of great popular support for these recommendations. Of course, the members of those organizations must never suspect that they're being used to promote the communist program. Now, the silent majority, the average person with no particular axe to grind, is caught right in the middle. He looks above and sees highly respected spokesmen for government calling for socialist legislation. He looks below and sees mobs of demonstrators shouting for the same thing. He says to himself, has everyone gone crazy, or is it me? Now, he's still in the majority, of course, but he doesn't know it. He thinks he's helplessly outnumbered, and he bows to what he thinks is the democratic will of the majority. All that remains, then, is for the duly elected legislators to place their own careers and political expediency above the best interests of the nation, to yield to this political pressure and pass the legislation into law. Then the whole process starts all over again with new recommendations from above, new demands from below, and finally new capitulation in the halls of Congress. In this way, the nation can move to the left in giant strides until the ultimate goal of communism itself is reached entirely legally through the constitutional process and in the name of the nation.